Hope, Gus, and Gwen, you are my entire world, and I love you.
Some say of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement that the cruelty is the point. They're right. When Governor Tim Walz took to the stage at the DNC, he showed us not only a proud vision for America, but a deep love for his family. Building an America that's better, more compassionate, is personal for Tim Walz, whose son Gus has special needs. Gus exploded with love for his father after he took the stage.
The camera caught him so incredibly proud of you, so emotional, saying, "That's my dad."
I'm grateful I got to experience it, and I'm so proud of him.
It was a wonderful moment for any decent person watching. But MAGA is anything but decent. Insults, mockery. These are the voices of Trump's enablers, the people who make up Donald Trump's movement. What kind of people taunt a disabled child? Trump's people. It's time to ask, is this who you are? Is this how you're raising your children? Is this what you want from a president?
Just in case you ever were under any illusion, the Fox News is nothing than a circus with some spare clowns.
But today was also about Donald Trump's economic speech, and we watched a lot of it. And I would dare any of you to listen to his answer on childcare and tell me what the hell he was talking about. It was one of the more incoherent things I've ever heard. He thinks tariffs are going to pay for everything. We know that they're a tax on the consumer. But this really highlights a big problem that everyone is saying, well, Trump is so transparent and Trump's out there and that's all that matters. What matters is the content of what he's saying. And none of it is explainable. This issue, which is a big priority for people, obviously a central plank of what's going on in the Harris campaign, he doesn't have an answer besides tariffs. And J.D. Vance yesterday was talking about just have grandma and grandpa do more, that's some sort of solution for people. He's going to have energy prices, drill baby drill, even though we're producing more oil than we ever have before, leading the world, more tax cuts for the rich, and tariffs are the only way that we're going to be paying for it.
I think tariffs are designed to punish countries who subsidize their products.
But they don't work that way. And
no, for specific countries, they do. Look, I know.
You know what?
I know tariffs.
I've dated tariffs.
And if you actually ask him to articulate just a basic policy proposal, say on childcare, for instance, he just cannot do it.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. It's couldn't, you know, there's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you.
The applaud at the end. After he's like falling all over, he does the Simone Biles dismount. MAGA. You get all that? Remember, the question was, what specific piece of legislation will you advance to keep childcare costs down? Okay? Now, again, here's a contrast. Here's the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris. She's the Democratic nominee. Here she is with her specific plan to help offset the cost of child care.
Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, and we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle-class and working Americans. The Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit. Through which millions of Americans with children got to keep more of their hard-earned income. So as president, I'll not only restore that tax cut, but expand it. We will provide $6,000 in tax relief to families during the first year of a child's life.
So there you have it. A little bit of a contrast. Now, you know, in Trump's defense, he was not on teleprompter. He was just riffing there. But I don't know, man. That's the quality of the brains right now that we got over there.
During his economic speech today, the former president was asked how he would make child care affordable. I invite you to watch this.
It's a very important issue, but I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, child care is child care. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including child care, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time.
Child care is child care here and any other country. I want to take a moment because he just said he is going to eliminate the deficit, which he ballooned, and pay for child care with tariffs. This is at the Economic Club of New York. Absolutely every single person at that event knows that tariffs do one thing. They jack up the cost of foreign-made goods for Americans. That is it. And yet nobody called him out on it. So let's get into it with Lindsay Owens, Executive Director at Groundwork Action. She's a former Senior Economics Policy Advisor to Senator Elizabeth Warren. Lindsay, thank you for being here. I want to start with this, the fact that nobody in the room balked at this obvious nonsense. Should we read that as the audience saying, just give us our tax cuts and nothing else matters?
Yeah, look, the lack of affordable, high-quality childcare in this country is a serious problem, and it deserves a serious solution and a serious plan. And I think what Donald Trump showed today is he doesn't have one. He doesn't have a plan that can eliminate the strain on family budgets that high costs of childcare result in. He doesn't have a plan to eliminate the inequities. And let's be honest, it's often women who cover the gap when we can't afford childcare or can't find childcare. And he doesn't have a plan to deal with the economic ramifications of the lack of affordable childcare in this country. I mean, think about it. We're losing billions in productivity because folks are out of the labor force because they're dealing with caregiving needs. We're also losing revenue, right? When people aren't working, they're not paying taxes. So the economic implications are serious. The implications on family budgets are serious. And Donald Trump doesn't have a plan.
What can we do about lowering the cost of daycare? Hayden, obviously a working family, and it's very hard for working families to get by. How will we lower the cost of daycare?
Yeah, such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more, or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare. Now, you talk about just daycare. Let's say you don't have somebody who can provide that extra set of hands. What we've got to do is actually empower people to get trained in the skills that they need for the 21st century. We've got a lot of people who love kids, who would love to take care of kids, but they can't, either because they don't have access to the education that they need, or maybe more importantly, because the state government says you're not allowed to take care of children unless you have some ridiculous certification that has nothing to do with taking care of kids. So empower people to get the skills they need. Don't force every early child care specialist to go and get a 6-year college degree where they've got a whole lot of debt and Americans are much poorer because they're paying out the wazoo for daycare. Empower working families, empower people who want to do these things for a living, and that's what we got to do.
All right, country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worse presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay?